Hey, what's up guys? This is jimmyduraide from BTS Lab. Today I'll be making another live play review from one of our BTS Lab members. We previously mentioned that since we reached our 1 year anniversary, we decided to ask you guys to provide us with some footage so we can do leak finders from you guys. So today I'll be reviewing kacper95, who's going to be playing a 16 NL Zoom on stars. I haven't looked at the footage. He also provided me with his HUD basically, and also his labeling. So his HUD, if we take a quick look, I mean, the first line is RFI, which I think is fine. The second one is VPIP, PFR, 3-bet, fold to 3-bet. And then you have flop, C-bet, flop, fold versus C-bet and squeeze. I think you should add a little bit more stats in his HUD, in the sense that it's really important when you take a look at flop C-bet that you have the flop C-bet in position and out of position, because both strategies when C-betting will differ a lot. And also the fold versus 3-bet, you need to have both in position and out of position, because both strategies will also be quite different. So I mean, those stats I would also add. I would also try to add some blind versus blind stats, so how much big blind is folding versus steal and all that type of stuff. So I think it's a bit too simple, if you want to put it this way. And then as far as the labeling, you guys can see too, so we'll just go and take a look at the footage. I decided to fast forward the footage because the first few minutes was pretty laggy, so hopefully it's not laggy anymore. Ace deuce off, I mean, against 2.5, I like the fold. I mean, it's one of our worst offsuits, so those really borderline offsuit ace X we can fold. So hands like ace 6 off, ace deuce off, that type of stuff. So here we have a limper who has 65 big blinds. We isolate 3.5, which I think is a fine sizing. The thing is, we are middle position, and the limper is under the gun, so we cannot go crazy with isolating here. So I mean, that's just what I wanted to say, that we cannot go crazy because there's still like 4 players left to act before after us. Then we get a cold call, another cold call, and he calls. So now guys, keep this in mind, because this is super important. Whenever you are out of position, I mean, we're only out of position to 1 player, which is okay but not great. And also we are facing 3 other ranges. So the more player you are facing, I mean, the less equity you have, because it's divided between all the players that are in the pot at the moment. So we have to be a lot more careful. So the more we are out of position and the more people in the pot, the less we want to be aggressive. So here, I mean, we don't have backdoor flush draw. We have, I mean, like a tiny bit of showdown value. I would just check here. I would still not, like, I would not definitely not be checking range here, because of the fact that the guy on our left looks like a reg. The guy in the big blind green is weak, so he's a recreational. So we have both. We have position on both of the weaker players. So I'm definitely incentivized here to actually be betting my strong hands, because I don't expect the regular on my left to be reopening the pot when he's last to act without a really strong hand. So I don't think he's going to be bluffing a whole lot here. So it doesn't really make sense to actually try to check raise. So if we have a strong hand, I would prefer to do the betting myself. And then what's going to happen is that he's a reg, right, on your left. He's going to see that you're betting into 3 people, where you're also betting against 2 weaker players, which indicates that you're going to have a really strong hand. So he should be really playing fit or fold there. Also, he has to worry about either of the weaker players to have a 4 or have a strong hand as well, because they both can definitely have those hands in their ranges. So all in all, what I would say is that I would still have a betting range here, but this specific hand I would just choose to be checking. So we checked, that's fine. And then he snap checks, so like this is pretty important. He snap checks back, like if he had a flush draw, it would probably have to think about it. If he had like he has a pretty clear like hand that just wants to like a pure give up or something that you know, as not really the kind of hand that you want to be turning into a bluff. Maybe a hand like pocket fives with a like hearts and spade or something like that, that he doesn't want to be running a multiple street bluff and all that type of stuff, and his hand is pretty easy to play. So it goes check, and he bets about half pot, which, I mean, he bets into 3 people. I don't think we can fold now. I mean, he's a recreational, he can have a whole bunch of stuff. I do expect him to be playing a bit more honest on the river as well. It kind of worries me that he bets into 3 players. But if he went with something like pot or like overbet or really big bet, I think we can just fold here. But against something like a half pot bet, I would still call there. It's not great, but okay, so on this river, I mean, if he bets again, it's pretty gross, but we'll see what happens. So against a half pot here, I mean, it's super close, to be honest. Like let me just think about it. Like, he makes a pretty nice. The thing is that, like, with these guys, to be honest, like, they could still bet an ace. They could still like end up with having trash hands. I mean, he obviously can have a 4. He obviously can have a flush. Since we have ace king, I mean, I'd probably end up calling here just because sometimes I'm a bit of a station against these guys, just because they can show up with really random stuff, the weaker players. So yeah, I think that I would not be folding here. If I have any other ace, I would probably be folding. Now our kicker gets into play. So I mean, I think it's a close spot. I think it's fold or call is fine. I would probably end up calling just because he's a weaker player and he can show up with like some weird stuff as well. But like also the fact that he bets into 3 players, the flush gets there, you can definitely have like a 4 as well. It's not a great spot at all. If he went with a bigger size, I would definitely fold. So if he went like with 24 bigs or like 27 or something close to pot, I'd probably fold. But here with the half pot, I probably won't fold. Yeah. So that's exactly why I think like we still need to be calling here, because he's gonna end up with hands like this. So nicely played. What happened here I didn't see. So I think we ISO the limper. So we ISO the limper with king queen off 4 big blinds. I think it's fine. My standard is 3.5, but I don't mind going slightly bigger against weaker players too. So here, I mean, we could do whatever. Like against these guys, we just try to play our hand a bit more face up. Don't overcomplicate things. Just look at your hand, pick a sizing that your hand wants to bet, and just bet that, you know, because they're not gonna read into it. And yeah, I mean, just make your life a bit easy and just play your hand. So I like kind of betting small. It's fine. I could even go something like half pot. I think it's fine. We could do like a whole bunch of stuff. doesn't really matter. Ace-8 suited, a bit too weak to be 3-betting there. Jack-9 off, easy fold. Ace-7 we're going to be opening if it gets folded to us. As far as the opening size, 2.5, I mean, I used to open 2.5. I now open a bit smaller. Just the reason is I mean, there's a lot of guys that knows how to play against 2.5 at my stakes. So just using a different size and try to put them into a tougher spot, I think makes a lot of sense. Also using like a small size, you need to defend really wide. And a lot of people are playing worse against that strategy. 9-7, it's a fold. Queen deuce, we're going to be defending. Here, okay, let's take a look at the queen deuce and then we can see here. So he opens 3x. This hand is mostly always going to be a call. And then he goes with a small size. If we had backdoor flush draw, I think we should probably end up calling with 1 card to the 10, some backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw. But it's really close. Without the backdoor flush draw, I think it's an easy fold. If he went with the bigger size, I mean, it's an easy fold whether you have backdoor flush draw or not. So let's go back here with the king 10 off. So this guy is playing 67, 100. This is the RFI. So VPIP, PFR, but it's only 13 hands. I mean, it's not that many hands, but he looks like he's a recreational player. So if I had more hands and that he's playing like this, you know, over like 50 or 60 hands, I would definitely 3-bet my hand here. But now, I mean, we don't want to be making huge deviation in our 3-betting range because, I mean, king 10 off is not a great hand. Plus, we are slightly deeper, which is not great because we get reversed implied odds when we're flopping top pair or something like that. But again, like if I see that he's playing 46-38 over like 40-50 hands or something like that, then he's clearly like a more aggressive type of weaker player. So I'm definitely going to be trying to be 3-betting him a lot more liberally, if you want to put it this way. But with 13 hands, I mean, it's a really small sample. So yeah, Jack 10 off, it's a fold in the middle position. Kings we're definitely going to be playing. Yeah, going 10, 10.5, 11 is fine. I don't think it makes huge difference. Pretty close spot. I mean, in general, like 3-betting, like I just want to press play 1 second. Okay. So in general, when we are out of position and we are facing a 3-bet, we want to be not doing much calling. I mean, we still do a bit of calling, but we want to be mostly 4-betting. So the thing we have to take a look into is, first of all, take a look at the pre-flop 3-bet size. You know, so we open 2 big blinds and he goes to 8, which is not great, right? He makes it pretty big in position. So calling is not attractive because it costs us a bit more, and we're going to be always out of position in the pot, which is not great as well. And but as the sizing goes up, 4-betting becomes a bit more attractive because there's a bit more dead money to go after in the pot. The thing is that it's not like we can just go crazy and start 4-betting really aggressively, because the 3-betting ranges of most people at micro and low stakes are just on the tighter side. So when they make it like a really big size, I mean, like something like 8, 9 big blinds or something versus your 2 big blind open, or 2.18 big blind open in this case. I mean, we just have to fold a lot, you know, so we don't call. We overfold a bit because, I mean, their sizing is really big. And also, they're usually 3-betting on the tighter side. Of course, we adjust against the more aggressive guys. But if you see an aggressive regular that 3-bets often with a big size, the counter strategy that you want to be doing is not by starting to calling more. So what you want to do is that if he makes it a big size like this, and you see that, I mean, he's full stack as well, you know, because I mean that has an impact. So like he 3-bets pretty big and he's 3-betting very aggressively in a certain situations. Yes, we do want to be calling a bit more, but we want also to attack fire with fire. So I know a lot of like micro stakes guys just try to say, oh, okay, this guy is 3-betting like me really aggressively, so I'm going to be calling more. I mean, that's not the way that you're going to get through those guys. You're just going to start adjusting your strategy and start to 4-bet him more lighter for value and more often as a bluff as well. But make sure that you're doing that versus the more aggressive guys who 3-bets with the bigger size. So when we take a look into this specific situation, we see that this guy is a recreational. He makes it on the bigger side. This hand is almost always going to be a pure call. We don't want to be 4-betting and then get jammed on, unless we know like he's really, really wild. But again, like this is going to be like purely like just a pure call here. We don't want to be like especially he's short stack, so hands like 7, 8s, 9s are not attractive to call, because even if we hit a set, we only win like 56 bigs. So like even those hands are like quite in a tough spot, to be honest, with that stack size, with those sizings. Like we could start like 4-betting hands like 9s and 10s, but we would need to have a read that is really aggressive, like, and then just calling is not appealing. I mean, it's kind of awkward. It's kind of an awkward situation given the 3-bet size, the stack size and all, but this hand just fits perfectly in the calling region of our range. I mean, if you have the read that he's pretty wild, you know, and you have notes, I mean, he has notes on him, so he should definitely have, like, if he's unsure about his decision, at least click on it, see, oh, okay, now you're gonna see, because a lot of the times I see like I see some players at like 1K and stuff, like just getting it in with like 4-bet calling hands like king queen off for 100 big blinds, and then you have like a borderline hand. It's like, okay, but if you don't take a look into the notes, you're not gonna know that. Of course, now after I see like a couple of hands on them and I see that type of stuff, you mark them down as really like big whales and stuff like that. But again, like those notes, he has them. Why not take a look? Just click on it, see, okay, like, I mean, if he sees that he gets it in, like he 3-bets get it in with like 7s for 50 bigs, I mean, of course, now we can just like, we can just 4-bet get it in here. But at 65 big blinds deep, I wouldn't feel comfortable getting it in ace queen suited there. Maybe in like wider ranges positions. But yeah, and of course, if we have a read that is a bit more on the aggressive side. So I mean, so when he starts 3-betting like this and calling off a jam, I mean, of course we are happily 4-bet calling or just 4-bet jamming hands like this. Maybe he had a read that I didn't have. Ace 5 suited, yeah. So usually it's a standard call, given the fact that he makes it on the smaller side with his 3-bet. It's definitely going to be a pure call here. We can sometimes 4-bet as well. Ace 8, if it gets folded to us, we're going to be opening. So he goes with the big size, which is not fantastic, right? But I mean, we have top pair, backdoor, not flush draw. We're not going anywhere. The thing is, like, this is like what kind of worries me. Like when I see these, bets, I mean, if you take a look at the boards, I mean, we're gonna have tens, we're gonna have hands like jacks, we're gonna have king queen suited, we're gonna have ace jack suited, ace 10 suited, jack 10 suited. I mean, we're gonna have like a gazillion nut combos on this board here. So when we're actually facing heat on a board like this, I'm typically a bit more careful, just because of the fact that, I mean, it's a very good board for us. We can have basically all the nuts in our range, and villain still bets big and aggressively. I mean, of course, on the flop, we're not folding, but if we see like a huge bet on the turn, unimproved, I think we can just fold there. Like, also, he's gonna have to turn some unnatural bluffs, like hands like queen jack 10-9 into a bluff. I mean, he's gonna have hands like 8-7, which is only a gut shot, or 8-9, which is not great as well. So he's gonna have some hands like some unnatural stuff into a bluff, which I don't think people do. So just being a bit more careful in general in these type of situation is fine. Make sure that like he takes a bit of time for his timing and he doesn't snap check back here. I would just take a bit more time, and then again, this is again something that we have to pay attention to. He snap bets the river, so also the bet check bet line is a pretty strong line in general at low stakes. So he checks quick, we check back, and then see how fast he bets. Okay, so it wasn't that fast. It was about 3 seconds. Here, I mean, like, I would probably end up folding. We have a lot of ace-x. I think this line is under bluffed. He's gonna have, I mean, a pretty cool hand would be something like 8-7, that he bet the flop and then check the turn, and then, you know, you just bet the river because you have 8 high. I mean, it's hard to know whether these type of players are actually like three betting that wide from the big blind. In general, they're not. He has 79 hands. Maybe he has a read. He looks like a weaker player. So what I would think in game is that basically it's a line that gets under bluffed quite a bit. He can have plenty of value. We look at the flop c-bet size that he did on a bad board not a bad board for him, but a board that we kind of smash. So I would probably end up folding here. And I see that he's probably going to do that. And I like it. Nice. Jack 8 off, it's a bit too weak to be opening. If we have a read that is a bit on the tighter side, then we can definitely adjust and open. But that's why having the blind versus blind fold to steal is super important, because you see, okay, he folds 40%, he folds 50%, or he folds like 70%. Then we need to adjust our opening ranges quite a lot, given the different defending strategies for big blind. Ace queen we're going to be opening. Eight nine off is right on the cusp. I mean, again, like this guy's playing 16-14. He seems on the tighter side, over 58 hands. I'm going to try to be opening up a bit wider there. So we're facing a small blind cold call, which is much different than a big blind cold call, right? I mean, he's obviously a weaker player. The thing is that when we are facing a small blind cold call, or a cold call in general that's out of the big blind, I mean, in the big blind, it's not a cold call, but when we're facing a cold caller, in general, like unless he's a really big recreational, their range, even though they don't have like the really strong hands in their range, like aces, kings, ace king type of stuff, they still have quite a bit of equity against our entire opening range. So I mean, he's gonna have hands like sevens, sixes, fives, you know, ace queen, king queen off, that type of stuff, queen 10 suited that he's just gonna call. So that range still has a bit of equity against our range. So it's not like we can be as aggressive versus these cold callers as if we are facing the big blind, where his calling range will be much wider, and we can attack on many different boards. But against these guys, we can still see bet at a very high frequency on the more drier boards. But when it gets a bit connected and stuff like that, I would still be a bit more passive and use more checks in my strategy. Here, I mean, we have 9 high, we have backdoor flush draw. I wouldn't mind a bet here, but he checked. Then those are the type of hand where we check back the flop, we have 9 high, we have a gut shot, so I would start bluffing on the turn. We're gonna have plenty, like we can check back hands like queen 9 suited, jack X, type of stuff that we still want to be betting. If we want to be betting here, a medium size makes a lot of sense, just because the range that we will be checking back on the flop will be a bunch of medium strength hands, like I just mentioned, hands like queen 9 suited, jack X, whatever, like pocket tens, so stuff like that, you know, or even hands like ace king that we can check the flop and then bet turn for value, that type of stuff. So I like the sizing here, I like the bluff, I think it's fine. And then he calls. Then on the river here, I would be betting again. I mean, we're never winning. We can make a hand fold, maybe like a 4, pocket 5s, hand like 7s. We still have plenty of value. Or a hand like this. Nine 10 is going to be a fold here against 3.5. Definitely a fold. Even against smaller, we're just folding king 7 off. We're going to be folding king jack off here. Ten and off, standard open. Let's see what he does. So here I like the small c-bet. I would still c-bet here aggressively. Think about a couple things, guys, when you're trying to decide whether you want to be polarizing yourself or just c-betting range. Take a look, first of all, at how good the board hits the big blind. So first of all, like the deuce is pretty irrelevant. The 4, same thing. I mean, the 7 is pretty good for big blind, but not super great. You still have all the overpairs. You still have all the strong stuff. Also, take a look now at the strong equity draws he has. So basically, he's gonna have flush draws. So when there's a flush draw present, it's not a great situation. Just because like a lot of his calling hands will be suited, right? So there's going to be a part of his range that has quite a bit of equity. But other than that, I mean, like he's going to have like some ace 5, ace 3, of course, that he's not folding. But he doesn't really have open-enders, just because like he should not call a hand like 5, 6 off from the big blind. So he should only have hands like 5, 6 suited or 5, 8 suited or something like 5, 3 suited. So I mean, all in all, it's not a super bad board, but it's not an amazing board, but it's still a decent board, decent enough for us to still be betting at a high frequency with a small sizing, in my opinion. So here, pocket queens, I mean, we're going to be mixing here we can definitely have some calls versus the 3-bet from the small blind. And we're also going to be mixing in some 4-bets. So like, I don't really like using RNGs post-flop. But for pre-flop decisions, in those close spots, you know, I do tend to try to use it a little bit in these type of situations. For example, I mean, we see that he's playing like 16-15 over 62 hands, so he looks a bit on the tighter side, but again, like the sample is really small, so we cannot make huge adjustments here. So I would mostly 4-bet, but we can sometimes call too. I think both are fine. And then 23 big blinds I think is okay. I would go maybe slightly smaller just because we are in position. When I'm out of position, I just go slightly bigger. But in position, probably go something like 22 and a half. 22 and a half, I think it's fine. Even 23, I think is okay. Let's take a look into this. Okay, so here we open and the big blind called. I mean, I'm not sure why we're not c-betting range here. I mean, just going aggressively. I mean, the 4x, he does have a bit more 4x than you have, but it's not like he has a ton of 4x, especially the offsuit ones. So I think we can still be very aggressive here on this board. Also, he needs to check raise quite aggressively, which I think people are not going to do. So I think just c-betting range here makes a lot of sense. Against a half pot, I'm probably not folding a side too. And then check. King 8, that's fine. Nice hand. I would have c-bet the flop though. Hopefully we see a 3-bet here. And we do. Okay, so he calls. I mean, pretty good board for us. I mean, we're gonna have ace king, which should mostly be 5-betting, 5-bet jamming here. Like he should be mostly 5-bet jamming, pocket kings as well. And then aces you can sometimes trap. I'm not sure how much people at 16 NL actually traps aces pre-flop by just calling the 4-bet, but I don't think that it's a big trend there. He definitely have hands like tens in his range, and the deuce is very irrelevant. He shouldn't have, like, pretty much never deuces. So I mean, the only hand that we're worried in his range, I mean, not here, we hopefully he has pocket tens, but one of the only hands that we're actually very worried if we have our value range here is pocket tens. And then he's gonna have also hands like king queen suited, king jack suited, hands like ace queen, ace jack suited type stuff. But it's a board that I would just c-bet very aggressively with a small size. I think a quarter pot size is totally fine. Yep, so I like the sizing. Exploitatively, since he's a weaker player, I would even size down here. So I would bet, like, we have top set, I would probably bet something like 6.9 big blinds or even 7, just because the board is very dry. There's no flush draws out there. We're basically demolishing the board, so it's really hard for him to have a king, and we want him to continue. So exploitatively, I would probably just use a slightly smaller sizing versus a weaker player. And here, I mean, it's a pretty easy call. Board is really dry. We don't need any protection. Let's just let him spaz if he has a hand like ace jack. And then Pretty easy call. Jack 10. It's a pretty interesting bluff, to be honest. It's not that bad. But like the turn is pretty aggressive. The turn jam is pretty aggressive there. But I mean, I could see solver actually check raise these type of hands sometimes. A6, we could mostly call. We could squeeze as well. I think both options are fine, but I would mostly call that. So nice hand here. King 9 off, it's a bit too weak. Not sure what happened. Let me just see. I think we dunked. Oh no, so he called. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem here. Like, I would just probably end up. We have to worry about this guy. We only have a gut shot, no backdoor flush draw. If I were to play the pot, I would probably just end up raising here and attacking him, just because like here we just call and then this guy can do whatever. He's gonna put us into a tough spot. So calling is not really attractive. I mean, if we have like some type of like queen 8 or something like that, then we can just raise as well, which is fine. So we see that he's reloading when he's at 200 big blinds. Guys, if you are not comfortable playing deep, it happens quite a lot in Zoom. I mean, just reload whenever you feel not comfortable. The only one of the only moments I would do that is I would keep my stack is that if there's a really big recreational who's just like dumping his money, who is deep as well, then I would not try to reload. Other than that, if you're not comfortable, just reload. I think that's a fine strategy.